Hello everybody, and here's another live session. This time around, I'm working on a smorgasbord of Song of Ice and Fire miniatures. Now, one of my primary goals here is to also finish up some Flayed men. This time I'm gonna be working in a here. Let's back this out a touch so you can see them. There we go. I'm gonna be working in acrylics. The first one that you saw a while back, that one was done with the Megamo oil brushers. We also got some blood effects on there. That was done with some fresh blood. This is from Secret Weapon. It's a ghost hint here. So I'm just setting some things up. I'm going to see if I cannot get this to work over here. See if I can get my chat to work. So it looks like it's up there. And we'll see what happens. So hopefully it works. I'm going to go over here. It looks like, yep, I see myself on the screen over there. I'm going to see if I can get the chat set up over here. Take away a few things. Get rid of that item right there. Okay, so I think we're good to go now. And again, go back to the YouTube thing, make sure I can see that. I'm going to get this keyboard off my lap. Now, one of the other things I've got to do is paint some of these. They're not objective markers, these are actually activation markers. It's really important to know when a unit is activated because, well, let's just say there's cards that let you activate units separately from their normal activation. So you can see this base right here, and here's another one. These were both done using one of the Green Stuff World texture rollers and using some gray extra firm Sculpey. Now here's a unit. This is going to be another Patreon tutorial here. So this was a test unit that I did. This is my crossbowman here. And I'm going to do another unit. I think it's the Mountains Men. And I'm going to be doing like this with the floor tiles here. So you can see you've got some really nifty imagery of the rampant lion. But you also have these little things here. Let's see, it's a strength right there. So that's very fun. Like I said, that's going to be coming up on the Patreon page very soon. And that base is for Varus right here. So we'll work on him during the stream here too. Now this one doesn't actually have primer on it. This is the hostage version of Jamie. Hey, it's working! Excellent! I'm not sure if I did anything different than the last time. But hey Gabe, how's it going? Excellent. So we'll make that bigger. That's a big relief actually to see that working. I think there's one that I've got also for the... here it is. So that's for the Flayed men. That's going to be their activation marker. I do already have some paint out on the palette here. We've already managed to stick one of our things in there. So since I've got a Flayed man right here, what am I doing? I'm starting to lighten these areas. And you can see the difference here from one to the other. So we've obviously got some highlights there, but we also have some of, see those grayish colors in the shadow areas? We got to do some of that too. You can also see a big difference here. So let's see if maybe we can do a little bit of that right now, just for fun. So this was another one. I just was doing these actually on the More Than Dice podcast. Painting up both of these here. And when they first started out, they were nothing but just primer. So that was really fun to get these guys out of the way because I needs them. I need them for that tournament. Alright. We've got mostly Reaper colors, a blue liner, brown liner. This is actually that's a Vallejo color, I think. Here's a little bit of the Maiden Flash. That's actually a Secret Weapon rust color, if you can believe that. We're using our big old craft brushes, and what are we doing? We're going to get right down in here and hit a few of these. Now, I also, like always, I want to make sure I vary the color. That's why I got a few different things out here. So we've got almost a pink type color here. We're going to make that shifted a bit towards the purple, make it almost a reddish tone. We're going to make sure we use some of that in here too. So I'll mix that in with our other color, because I don't want, it's supposed to be wearing skins, but the skins could be in various states of decay or tanning. Let's put it that way, maybe. Now I also want to be able to have some darker colors here. Yeah, that's going to be good. Now I'm going to, since I have my chat, I can do more with my controls. I'm going to back out a little bit more and make that a little brighter. So I think now you can see how that has just a touch more of the purple to it than this. I'm going to actually have some of that on the interior of the skins here. Not so much on his skin cloak. I guess maybe we'll refer to him as that. YouTube will love that. That's great. These were just some initial, I think I did some glazes and such with, as I turn that a little more purple, did that with the red liner. That's a Reaper paint for those not quite familiar with it. And because I have these colors out on the palette, I know it's not quite like oils. Not quite like oils. It's not going to be the super wet into wet blending, but there's a little bit of it there. Then we're going to throw some of that in here. Now we've also, remember we talked about that grayish tone. Here, get some of that brown liner in there. And this, it's not gray, but it's going to look a little bit grayer. And what we just put in there just gives it a slightly grayed down appearance, because what's around it is more intense and more pure. I thought you might. Yeah, there is so much yet to do. Tomorrow's going to be another busy day. Well, especially since we leave Thursday. Or Tuesday, I mean, not Thursday. I'm assuming you probably are heading out there Wednesday. Or are you going to head out there a day early too? Boy, it is so much easier having that chat window working. Oh, man. And hey, the side benefit is you get to see your own messages too. Now, I'm doing the same thing up here on the banner, because we're always trying to find some variations, and you can see that on the ends of the banner, which is kind of the ends of the skin, trying to make those darker as if they are. You can really see it on this side, like it has been almost tanned in some way. Look at the difference this will make here. This is one of those deals too where it helps to tie things together, because in those initial stages, if you've seen those, you know that things can get a little bit on the rough side for sure. Well, this is the time in the process where things start to clean up a little bit. Oh, wow, look at that. There's even a little time stamp there and everything. That's really cool. I've always got a little extra thing of color that I can draw from here. And all the while I'm doing this, keep in mind that I can go back in and do a glaze over something to tone it down. If I said, oh yeah, that just got too bright, too intense, too whatever, I can tone it down. If I need to darken it down, I can do that. So I'm going to take that's the brown liner there. So I've got filbert brush going and changing the boots around slightly. Changing the reins slightly. Color the horse a tad bit. Got another boot over here. And as I mentioned, if I have these out here, I can always... Here, let's create a little bit of a glaze. This is the brown liner again. Fills that in. Changes it around. Like so. When you're getting into things like the Flayed man and all that, so the mountain that rides, everything is the emphasis on such dark colors that it can be hard, really hard, a big challenge to find some way to get some color variation in there to make it interesting. And I'll show you in a second here. Just again doing this cleanup on a few areas here. Like so. So I'll bring up another item here. This is one of the most, actually it's the most recent tutorial. I haven't even had a chance to upload it yet. So we'll grab this here. And here he is, the mountain that rides. That was about a 2+ hour tutorial. Arriving on Wednesday. Let's see, they have tournaments going, Friday and Saturday. I'm doing the Friday one. And I think that starts at 1 in the afternoon. So, you got dark colors there. And also the other thing I want to emphasize, see how we've got more of a greenish tint to the yellow, and here it's almost more of an orange tint. Spin around, you got the same thing. See, green, because we're trying to reflect the snow. See, same thing, green there. It's all yellow. The eye sees it as yellow, but there's a variation. That's the kind of thing that we're up to on this guy, looking for the same sort of thing. Yeah, that's a late start for a tournament. Oh my goodness. Well, I think it goes till 9. Yeah, I think it starts at 1, goes till 9. Oh my goodness. That's going to be interesting. Maybe they couldn't get the room until then, or... Actually, I don't even know where it's at. I suppose I should find out. Yeah, I'll have to look and see where the heck that's actually happening. It could be in one of the smaller rooms, I suppose, upstairs. That's possible. And where's my... Got a little red in here, a little bit of the brown liner. And I'm just going to do some stuff on the banner here. Like so, we've got our little blood drops and hearts and whatever those are. We'll see how these guys, how the mountain does, the Castlery Rock Knights. I don't know if I guess they're going to use pretty much the standard scenarios out of the book, because it's a cool mini run tournament. It's not a privately run event, so they're probably going to go with all official stuff. Here, I'll just... normally, I would just prefer that I could do my own freehand designs you saw on the Circe figure that I had the option of just painting in whatever it was that I felt like doing. Now I'll show you the Knights of Castlery Rock in a second. You know, tip him over. And yeah, it's the downs. Well, the upside to Tuesday is that Tuesday is the unpacking day and the organizational day. The downside is that I lose all of Tuesday to be, well, heck, I could probably even do another one of these if we were still here on Tuesday. Speaking of the Knights of Casterly Rock, there you go. And you can see there's just a bit of freehand on those. You can see even on the banner, extra freehand. On the horsies there. And as I said, I try to do a balance of tutorials, some for YouTube lives like this, general type things that everybody can watch, but then I also do some very special episodes, especially the army painting stuff. That's for the Patreon page. And also too, if you're looking for some more images of things, you can see my blog is going to be scrolling across the screen there too. That's just Wappelius at blogspot.com. You can check that out. I've got tons of articles there, and by tons I mean thousands. And that's not a paraphrase or a fudge of numbers. There's several thousand, at least. I want to say 5,300 articles or more. Been posting to it almost every day for 7 years, so those pile up. That gave it a deeper, richer red there. Now this shield is open, so maybe I paint that face on the shield. That might be fun. And again, the whole idea is to just move colors around here. Every so often, say I darkened an area there. The blues that you see on this, as far as the blackened steel, very similar to the mountains, to the mountain that rides. Oh, hey there, Mr. Walls. Good morning from the Netherlands. I need to get ready fresh work. Yeah, it's got to be. Normally I'm doing these at about 2:30 my time, so it looks like it's, oh geez, yeah, 4:16 in the morning in London. Normally, well, you know how this goes. It's 4:16 in the morning for me. And I may still be doing another YouTube live session at that hour. Well, the wee hours. And now I'll show you in a second the brushes that I use. These are the number 8 round craft brushes. I get them from Hobby Lobby. There we are. I'll bring out a container of these. Here we go. So you can see, not real expensive. And when they start out, they have a pristine tip, like what you see here. Then as it gets a little worn out, a little beat up, they actually serve another purpose. They become almost more like a filbert brush, and you can do some really nifty stuff. You can, yeah, you don't have to feel bad about doing weathering stuff with them. See, we're gonna change the, because this, we're gonna make it more of a red, maybe more with cooler pinks as highlights, so that it becomes a little more distinct from some of the warmer colors behind it. So obviously we got some chain or some handcuffs there we'll have to we'll get in there and change that around a bit too. So, like I said, we can change these colors around a touch. Kind of work on some of the tendons here. Hey, Bethany. Yeah, I was gonna say it's a whole different time for you. Actually, is it still today? I mean, I'm looking at my thing, so it's 3:19, and it's only in the afternoon. Oh wow, so it's not a horrible time. But yeah, still the 25th over there. I thought so. My today, your today is my tomorrow. It doesn't take much. And yeah, the tip on this thing is good enough to be able to do some really interesting. It can be relatively intricate there. So it's 11 something here. Usually it's 13 hours ahead. It's always guessed the time zone. I guess the one thing that I am bummed about is that I didn't get a chance to order up some Tim Tams to have with me at Adepticon. Gonna be bummed about that. Gonna continue to add a few lights here. I need some context on this. I'm not quite sure how light I want this to go. Not sure if I want to put eyes in the banner or not. I may do that. Just not sure at this point yet. All I do know is that I want to have enough separation, not just value-wise, but color-wise, from the rest of what's the backdrop of the banner, I guess we'll call it. And I'm gonna get a little bit of that color in other places now. Down here. Maybe even in a few spots here on the cape. So see how that, again, not just adding lights or dark, so it's Monday the 25th. Man, that is scary. Well, it's going to be Monday here soon, just another half an hour. It's about all it'll take to get to Monday here. I wish it was still the previous Monday. Let's see what happened. We'll try and add some eyes to this puppy here. Just throw something in there. Yeah, just it doesn't take much. And we always talk about center of interest and trying to accent the things that need to be accented and not necessarily diminishing stuff, but not letting some things get out of control that really need to be a touch more muted. So we keep going with some of that. I always try to keep moving all the time. So I'm going to get back to some of the lighter but also warmer. They are responsible for the Tim Tam resurgence in house. I've created a trend now, a cuisine trend. Yes, indeed. I think the the mint ones are always gonna be the mint chocolate. Always gonna be my favorite, and I think for Kathy it's always gonna be the salted caramel. Yeah, coffee and biscuits. It's funny too because here in the US, the whole thing with cookies is they're supposed to be nice and soft and almost kind of bend not snap. And everywhere else it seems to be just the opposite. It's all about the snap. Speaking of snap, what I like about the Song of Ice and Fire, there's, well, lots of things that I like. But one of the things that's really neat is that the banners just don't break. They bend. They definitely will bend and bounce around a little bit, but they're not going to break. And that makes me happy, because I've had plenty of banners, even ones that I've pinned and stuff, had those things break on me. Metal ones that bend, and then the paint pops off. I guess I'll say that because I used the Stynylrez primer, the primer doesn't pop off. When that bends, it bends right back, and the primer is exactly where I left it. Later on I can show you the Badger Stynylrez. And I apologize, I may need to be using some cough drops here, because it's dry. Actually been talking a lot today, because I just finished up the More Than Dice podcast. That was a lot of fun, because I was, and you can watch it too. It's More Than Dice, a podcast. You want to see what I was doing on those other NCUs? Well, that's where I was painting those. And you can see that I work my way around. Just not lingering on one area for too long. Making sure I'm always in motion. That's just a little bit of the Reaper Maiden Flesh. Let's go back up here on top of the banner. So it looks like the chat window also scrolls for me. Now I haven't taken the mouse over to it to see if I can scroll back up and down and see old messages. I kind of don't want to mess with it because it's working. And what's the mortal enemy of good is always better. So I'll accept that it works right now, and maybe another time check that out. See if it'll scroll for me. See, we had a few little lights there, and that starts to bring up a few things on our flesh face. Yeah, but the way that I might be a little punchy also here, so you will have to give me some slack on that. It's been a really long week here of trying to get stuff done, and it's going to be an even longer weekend at Adepticon. For those that are going to be there, well, you already know that I have the Song of Ice and Fire tournament on Friday. But on Saturday afternoon, not Saturday afternoon, all day Saturday, in fact, I will be at the Creature Caster booth. And wouldn't you know, I'll be painting Creature Caster miniatures there. Who would have thought? Using Creature Caster paints. Who would have thought that? And Sunday, I've got a special little event that's in the boardroom right off of Fort Wappel, the hobby area. For all those not going to Adepticon, never been there, well, you won't quite know what I'm talking about. But Gabe certainly does. And I'm going to it'll be at least a few hours long. Actually, it kind of be as long as I have the room and they don't kick me out. So I use the Vallejo primer. Oh, yeah, we ditched the Vallejo primer. Once we got the Stynylrez, the Vallejo stuff, I would just put it on terrain or whatever. So yeah, Badger Stynylrez. There's 12 colors, that's the nice thing. So plenty of colors to work with, and it just sticks to absolutely everything. Is that the Tully Sworn Shield, I think it is. And that's got that little bit of a gradation, starting with the brown, working my way up towards that tan color that you saw. I use it for everything. And the nice thing is, if you don't have an airbrush, no big deal. You just brush the stuff right on there, because that's what we did for years. Brushed it on for years using the exact same brushes that you see me using right now. So you don't have to have an airbrush for that. Now, when you're doing the kind of volume of stuff that I am, it's a little bit faster, I'll tell you that. Airbrushing it on than trying to brush it on. But what if you're somewhere where there's no electricity or you just can't set up your airbrush? Well, you can brush it on. The Vallejo stuff never really, well, it didn't go through the airbrush very well either. And it wasn't necessarily the greatest to brush on. It would be one primer would be super liquid, the other primer would be very kind of solid. So not really super consistent from one to the next. And expensive too, in comparison to the Stynylrez. Everybody loves to save. And we just keep trying to shift colors around. So I've got some basically looks like a clear red, like my Reaper clear red. Better for metal. I use the Badger stuff for metal, resin, every kind of plastic. We have a little shtick that we do at conventions where I take, say, the wing of some gigantic Reaper Bones dragon and spray a bunch of primer on it and then throw the wing at him. And bend it a few times also, just for good measure. And it just stays on there. It works for terrain. So see how I added some of the red in our crevices there. Now we'll take some of that red. We're going to get it in with the brown liner here. And just get a few of these drops looking a little more of a deep red. And let's see what we can even do on our flesh face there. Get a little more reds around him and more of a pure red. So hopefully you can see that. See how that grayish stands in comparison to some of these other tans. Now we'll go back to our brown liner here and just the banner pole. I just want to darken some areas down. Yes, I use my finger all the time. Do that. Hit it again. I'm going to use a little blue liner perhaps. It changes a little bit of the flavor of that brown instead of just being brown. And now we're going to get in between each of these little bits around the banner pole. Do it on the other side. And with each one of these details, cleanup things that we do, just it gets that much closer. Now, I think on one of these I've got it. It's relatively close to done. The reason I did the snow effects, I've done snow effects plenty of times in other videos. Don't have a lot of things with blood effects, and I was hoping to utilize that basically on the last one. So I'm hoping to get to that guy while we're doing this. So I looked it up. It is much cheaper. Oh, that's good. Oh, hey there. How's it going? Sorry I didn't see your message thing sooner, even though it is a little bit easier to see in the chat here. Yeah, it's a weird time for me. I think only one other time have I done normal hours, I guess, as I make my air quotes that you can't see. Usually it is very, very late at night, at least for me. We're going to go back here on the underside. Keep that going. Yeah, there's that. There's a piece of terrain that I'd hoped to do in a live session. I think I'm going to have to do it recorded style because I'm just have a feeling it's going to be tough to get under the camera. That's my big concern, and I don't want people to tune out just because they can't see what the heck I'm doing. So I thought if I just record it the normal way, like a standard video, then if I run into some crazy stuff trying to get the thing under the camera lens, it won't be quite as disruptive. Now I know I couldn't actually say you get Badger StynoRes Primer here because you don't necessarily have. I know you have BadgerAirbrush.com, so this is a little more of a bloody type color here. I'm just gonna get a few, see along the edge of the cloak there. That's it. That's all. Not much else. And then a few more darks there on our blood drops. Let's see what's left as far as our light colors here for this. Then what I'll do is, while I'll still probably do more to this range here, I'm going to also get onto the metals here, because we don't want to forget about those. And a couple of final lights there. I'm trying to get one here, so. Oh, it's okay. It's going to be just a recorded video, and I'll post it. Just like the mountain that rides. I don't quite know if I'll do that one public or not. May end up being private because it'll be one of the last Patreon videos of the month, maybe. I do have I have another basing video loaded up. Speaking of snow, we've got the Secret Weapon Crushed Glass snow on this. The latest episode that I loaded up for the Patreon page is an older episode. It is how I used to do snow effects, basically before I discovered the crushed glass method. And it's one that I still actually have to use today because I still have to match figures that were done years ago. I suppose that's the other thing that's maybe a little useful bit of information there as we shift to more of the bluish side of things while I've got it here. So that's the blue liner. And I think that's a jade blue or something like that. And I'm just going to drop some of that into here. Now, I'm not trying to necessarily do reflections on things like the helmet, because this is not supposed to be shiny armor, but it still would reflect some of its environment. That's why we have so much of the reds that you see on, not so much here, but here. Under there, it's almost more of a purple type color. And I'm also going to drop in some shadows there. So taking some brown liner, some blue liner. I'm just going to go in here and, well, see how we just tone that down? Another one of those instances where I just said, you know what? Gotta darken that down. That terrain is, oh man, I love doing terrain. When I did the first painting pyramid Kickstarter thing, of the 53 videos, 5 of them were terrain. Actually, 5 of them were terrain, 12 of them were basing. So that you can get a notion of just how much I enjoy the terrain and the basing. To me, it's like playable dioramas. Dioramas you can use. As much as and I've made dioramas in the past, they're really nifty and such. Really enjoyed them, but it's not the same as now you can actually put miniatures on it and just use it. That's extra special. So let's see, what do I have? And good. I still have a nice bit of red here, and I'm going to try and do some of that right here over the top of a few of the blood drips here, like that. And before things get too dried out, it seems like I've got plenty of my metal colors here. The blood colors, those won't last forever. I have to put out some more, so before those die away, I might try to screw around with a bit of something here on the shield. Let's see if we can put the face on the shield, and just using the color that I've already got. Got some ears here, down to the chin there. We'll make it, there's obviously going to be some weathering over the top of this too. Got some brown liner here. Let's get the eyes. I think we got some eye sockets about there. Gonna grab some red to go with it, and just putting in some shadows here. Nose, mouth, ears. Touch like that, and we'll make things a little lighter and get some of the same striations that we saw on the face, the flesh face up there. I'll work in again some of these same lines here, tendons, whatever those are. Ear. And well, let's see if we can get your eyes in here. While we're there, might find myself a few. And again, you don't want to do a lot of this sort of really bright highlight on your metals. they're supposed to be blackened steel, but when you do just a few accents of it here and there, really stands out because, well, there's not a lot of it. It's only, say here, there's just dots of it. So we're going to go back into the red here, make that a touch lighter. And we'll see if we can, yeah, we're going to raise the top of the head there. That's gonna help. And we can always, you can use a finer brush too. You don't have to use big old giant brush like that all the time. So I'm going to move in a bit, double check the focus. I'm going to throw some of the maiden flesh out there because I need a light color that's got a little more yellow in it. Go back to our face here. I don't think any, well, the first one had a whole bunch of studs running through the shield, and it was not a flat shape like this. I think this is the only flat-shaped head. Or a flat-shaped shield, sorry, not flat-shaped head. What the heck am I talking about? Obviously already getting pretty tired. And it's still very early yet. So now that we do have that finer brush, we can start to pick out. It's almost a little bit like what we did on our metals just a second ago, finding a few things we can emphasize here. A couple of those. And all right, we've got, still have our blue here. We got to do something with this little topper on the banner. Let's do that. And we want to make that essentially vertical. See, that's the wet paint just created. It's pretty wild because I just followed basically the shine of the wet paint as the lights hit it. I just said, well, I don't know. I think I'm going to put my highlight there because the lights are telling me to do it. Might as well go ahead and do it. So here's another little striation type thing there, a vertical line. Got to turn it around. We'll do a similar thing over here. Like that. And I'm just going to touch on these slightly. So I'm going to get my, what is this? Red leather. It's, I'm not even sure where or when I got it. Probably have had it for a long time. I do have Vallejo colors. Just don't always necessarily think to use them because I've got the Reaper liners, the Reaper clears, using the secret weapon stuff. And we've talked about this before. Yeah, oh my gosh. If you can find it, actually I think, yeah, it would be more than dice. It'll be up, it's either up on their YouTube channel now or it will be very soon because Gonzo's putting that up there. You would be really shocked at how fast the Circe and the High Sparrow, those things basically just kind of instantly appeared. Now, if you look at them close, you're going to see lots of brush strokes and there's things that you surrender when you paint things that fast, as in just a couple of hours for 2 miniatures. It's completely different when you spend 8-9 hours on a figure, something like that. That's a whole different deal. And I'm just gonna. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's chains, that's not rope. So we're gonna go back to our blues here. Because that is definitely, yeah, we're gonna make that a chain. That's gonna help. Because we had so many of the same colors going on there. Now, blue liner. And we're just gonna pop that on there to darken some things down. And then if we take, now let's go with some of the white and the blue liner. You get a little different metal color. We don't want them all to be the same. And then we'll do, see, we're gonna follow, doing that little bit of a vertical or a parallel line there. Let's just give ourselves a couple of lighter areas here on our cuffs. One there. Let's do another one. Boom, there. So that starts to, that changes that pretty nicely. So I think maybe the one that's on the banner, that won't have eyes, but maybe this one. Let's see if we can't give that some eyes. We'll just sort of feel our way through this. I'm going to get some red back out here that got kind of smudged in the beginning there. So now we've got ourselves a darker red. And I'm just gonna, yeah, needed that over the top. Let's see if we can make some shadows. Yeah, that's starting to look a little creepier now, I think. Do this. And now give him some eyes. Going in here like that. And we've got our maiden flesh to really get ourselves a few lights on that face. Because I want to emphasize the eyebrows there. And then, see that one that goes in almost like some very severe cheekbones, even though it's cheek muscles. And I think that gives us now a nice added element of creepiness to our flayed men. Sorry, that went off the screen. The whole while we were broadcasting, because my screen is set to the wide format, I had to keep moving the miniature to a different spot than I'm used to. There we go. And I'm going to get some of that blue in there again. Let's see what I can do with a few of the metals here. Some of this needs some lights. And we're going to find a couple of places here. Like so. So what I think I'm going to do is I'll try and get this guy as much through to completion as I can, and then grab that other one. Yeah, this guy with the flails here. So that I can show you some of the blood on the thing. It won't take very long. Won't take very long. And then I might paint one of the activation banners or do Varus or both. All has to be done anyways. Again, I'm going to go lighter here. Right over the top. So here. And that's gonna just makes what was at each stage when you're doing the metals, you think that you're adding something that's so light, and when you keep the white off the palette like I did for as long as possible, then these things that I'm adding, that's why they have so much impact, because for the longest time I just did not have any white at all out on the palette. If it's out there from the get-go, and you reach for that, and just boom, and then the first 5 minutes are starting to paint white on stuff. Now, later on, when you go to use it, what impact is that going to have? Besides, not much. And yeah, we need, just like we did on the other side, I think we find a few lines here, and I make it even semi-broken there, because it starts to look like, well, maybe there's a little either battle damage or something happened to that, and it's not just perfect right out of the armory. We're going to get ourselves some lighter stuff going on here. This will, once again, make this area look like it's in light, and the other part where the cloak is over the top of it look like it's in shadow. And it seems like a simple notion, but you'd be surprised that for people it can be difficult and complex, that they're just not used to it, they haven't done it before. And yeah, that's also, there's a bit of a raised surface on that one shoulder armor there. So you can see there's even a little bit of purple down in there. Speaking of purple, let's make some. That's the blue liner. And whatever that purple was, I think it was from Creature Caster. Yeah, I think it was. I'll have to. And it's just light purple. They don't get too crazy with their names. It's light purple, deep purple, whatever. So there you've got a face with a little bit of musculature and that showing up. I'll even use that here on the underside of this. Some of it on my banner. I even use some of it on my metals up here. And here. I can even grab the mountain figure there and show you the same purple. And I think veterans slash survivors of my painting stuff, they know that purple and green make really good gray. They just could naturally go together. Now let's do a darker semi-glaze here. I'm just using water for those that might be asking or wondering. It is just plain water. Used to use flow improver and other mediums. They were nice. That was great, but well, I don't really do, well, I never really did one-off figures, but now with just the mass amounts of figures that I do, it's just not practical. Not practical to work with that kind of stuff for me. And I'm a watercolorist by trade, so it's just me maybe even going back to my roots a little bit, as I just threw a darker glaze on that, tone it down. Remember we talked about doing that a while ago? So that's just more of a flat gray. It's not a bluish gray. I'm going to try and get a little linear thing going there too. And right here, I'm going to throw a bit of, yeah, it's not necessarily reflected light. Well, maybe it is. And I think, yeah, I need to do a little something right here on this part of the chest plate. That was just a little too plain. Needs a little more. Might even, and all that's doing is just a few little hash marks there to maybe indicate. So we got swords hitting it, spears. So that's starting to take its shape. Now I'm gonna see if I can't relocate my brown liner here. There we go. Put that in here. Go on the shield and a few other spots with that. Even here on the tail to darken that down. That can even turn it into a real quick glaze. All I did was just add some water. That's all it took. And then we'll go back in to here, see if I can't solidify. Yeah, it needed to be. I needed to darken things down. Makes the face show up a little more. So these are those changes, alterations that you do. I really had no idea what I wanted to do there as far as if I even wanted to do a freehand thing there. And then seeing that, I said, yeah, I think I want to do that there. And go in with a little bit of another one of those darker washes here. There we are. Let's get more definition here. More separation between the leg of the horse. And now I'm going to just look for some kind of a whatever yellow here. Let's just grab clear yellow. So I'm just gonna grab some of this. We'll just throw it out on the palette here. We got it now. Can do something with that. And we'll just make, we got some, like a dirty greenish color here. We'll do something on the boots with that. And on the standard here, the wrapping or whatever that happens to be. Get some right. Yeah, get some there. And when you have figures that just are overall dark like this, it can be tricky when you trying to find ways to make it a little more interesting. And we'll throw a little bit of a outline on that. Can even lighten up a few. We'll find a few little light areas on the horse even. Just give it somewhat of a fur type of a look. And every so often I just grab some water when I need to help it flow a little better. I know even today I get asked a lot of questions about flow improvers, mediums. Got another one today about stuff that makes acrylic paint act more like, say, oils. And I just say I use oils for oils when I want to use oils. I have them. I'll just use the oils. There are times where I'll use acrylics because, well, not just things need to dry faster. But sometimes they just have properties that oils don't. So I'll use when I think I need to use when I need to use it, and it can change from one project to the next. So here I'm actually going to use, this is more of a pink right here. Actually going to use it. If I'm going to do any kind of highlight in there, well, I don't know. I don't think it's too good of a plan to be using some kind of a bluish color there. So that's why I grab the pink. And see, that starts to take shape. And I'm gonna get this brown liner here. Do I have any? Yep, I still have some red. I'm looking for, once again, a few darker colors on the banner. And for those that maybe just don't know, because heck, I didn't know about these miniatures after, never saw the Kickstarter or anything like that. This is from the Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game. And this is part of the, it's referred to as the neutral faction. It's part of the Boltons. And they are working with, right now they're working with my Lannisters. So they're going to be rolling in with the Knights of Casterly Rock. There's my unit of halberds. We will. I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna just get some paint in there. I say I need a few lights here on. There's some rivets and studs here that definitely need a little more action. And feel free to ask questions or whatever, because it's no problem for me to answer while I'm doing this. Now, if I knew there was any around to view, I would desperately be trying to watch some more Song of Ice and Fire battle reports, just so I could get a better handle on things. I have watched, I think it's Guerrilla Miniatures, Guerrilla War Games Limited, whatever. It's Ash's channel. I am hoping that once Adepticon is done, I can start making battle reports myself. They would be much more epic sized, probably more in the 50-point range, on 6x4 tables with terrain. Man, yeah, and I almost forgot. Here, there's even a little bit of yellow now that's worked its way into that because I've been painting so many other colors with it, so we're just finding a few extra lights here. And as I mentioned, you can, like with weathering, you can get out of control on the highlighting stuff real fast. I'm going to use a little more yellow here. Lighten this up. Then we'll go back to our standard pole here. And not do each one equally. Some maybe a little more than others. I'm glad I'm able to get this much done on this here because I really was not looking forward to trying to paint stuff like this up in the hotel room. Now, for folks like Gabe and other people that will be there, Fort Wappel is pretty much open 24 hours a day. Pretty much, yeah, once it's set up on Wednesday, it's open for business. And that means you can come down there, paint to your heart's content, late into the night, into the morning, to get your armies done. Just getting some slightly different tones here. Once again, when it's all dark like this and it's all in a relatively compressed color range of yellows and browns and tans, you have to look for contrast wherever you can get it. It's got to be more than just lights and darks. All that now definitely begins to stand out. Even if I make the bridle and the straps on the head plate a little lighter, the face gets darker. It's, I guess color and stuff has an equal and opposite reaction. Yeah, and I just got a reaction. Jim from Dark Sword, I told him about the live episode or the live podcast we just did, and that's Jim of Dark Sword Miniatures fame. He's the one that introduced me to this, and he got me hooked on it, got me addicted to it. The miniatures, the game, the whole 9 yards. So congratulate him or blame him, as the case may be, whichever one. But I also have, in addition to the Army Painter pledge level that you keep seeing scrolling across the screen on the Patreon page, there's a $10 Dark Sword pledge level. And that gets you a fair amount of content too. That's, well, obviously Dark Sword miniatures. And I have a number of them from Jim, and in some cases I actually have multiples of the same figure, with the idea being that I paint one in acrylics and then replicate the same color scheme on the same sculpt, but on a different figure in oils. So this way you get to hear, okay, how do I think about the colors when I'm doing oils versus acrylics? Well, the answer is it's not all that much different. When you think about it, not all that much different. Paint is paint, whether it's oils, acrylics. Paint is just paint. It is what you make of it. It's what you do with it. The paint by itself cannot cure the common cold, cannot solve world hunger. All paint can do is just stick to a miniature. Well, maybe your brush too, if you don't clean it. But hey, if that happens, rubbing alcohol is your friend. What I'm going to do is go back to one of my larger brushes here. Let's see if we can find ourselves some secret weapon. Just a basic rust. Yeah, here we go. We got a couple of secret weapon. So that's the red rust. Let's toss that out. It's very similar to that other brown that we had out. It's a little darker, but it's also meant to be watery. You can see we're adding water to this. And just gonna do a few things like that. Gonna do some right there. So it's one more level of interest. It's not terribly hard to do, not hard to control. See, I just let that sit down into the crevices. That's where that kind of stuff would accumulate anyway. Helps to bind the armor to all the cloak and stuff that's basically the skins, all that pink and skin tone color there. And it's nifty up here too. See how we just got that right in there. And what the heck, I can use it up here too. Nothing says that I can't. See how I'm just using the side of the brush there. It's pretty darn liquid, to say the least. Well, we need some definitely over here. And drop some down into that crevice there. See what that does? And right in there on the helmet too. And then if we do a touch of it there. Once again, it changes the look of the armor. But like anything else, too much of a good thing can become a bad thing. So we always have to think, yeah, alright, if I wandered into territory where enough is enough, while we have it, so let's set him down. He's going pretty well there. So this guy needs some of that. Once again, as before, into our rust. And I'll throw some in here. Now I can get separation between that armored carapace over his neck and the chainmail underneath. Not by adding a darker color, it's actually technically it's almost lighter. But now we've got that that warm rust color in there. We definitely are going to do that here. As I think, well, everybody that's in the chat has heard me say over and over again that miniatures are it's like a chess match. It's like its own little war game. And in that chess match, what are you trying to do? You're trying to stay moves ahead. Several moves ahead, hopefully. And you have to think, okay, there's going to be that rust there. If that's not dark, rust is not going to show up. I'm doing the exact same thing now on this side, right here, and on our... So I just left these dark there. So I'm going to do the same thing up top. And didn't have to get too crazy with details here because we want to do our blood effects. Want to do those blood effects. And if I've learned the hard way. I've painted a whole bunch of detail on somewhere and then ended up just covering up with something else. I said, well, I could have saved myself a bunch of time there. It's the reason why when I do things like the freehand or especially object source lighting, that comes out as soon as I start. And that is one of the first things I do is establish the whatever object source light, whatever special effect it's going to be, establish that early. Because if you wait and wait and wait and wait, well, you may be too timid and say, nah, I don't want to. I've heard that. Oof, you know how many times I've heard that. Well, I just figured I'd ruin it. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And in many cases, it would have been something that would look really neat. So I'm going to go back to that crazy yellow and clear brown mix. Not clear brown liner mix. Just to add the vaguest hints of a lighter color. Also one that stands out from the skin tones, although I'm going to add some of that into here. So that's the green. What happens when we add a little bit of that even to our helmet? Let's add a little bit to the carapace on the neck. What's that we were saying? If you put it somewhere, it's got to go everywhere. Well, that's what we're doing. We're going to put on the tail now. Putting that on the tail. And not before. I see I have got to hit this with some dark under here. Yeah. Alright, that's a little better now. Can hit that again later. But before I forget, I want to show you the blood effect. So move those guys out of harm's way. And I'm going to look and see if I can find wherever my fresh blood went. Because like I said, we wanted to put some blood effects on weapons. Now this stuff is glossy. It's very glossy. You have to remember that. Keep that in mind, and we'll put some out on the palette. We'll put it out there. You can see it. So you can see it's pretty viscous. And actually close, make the camera go bigger here. Alright, let's see if I can get trying to find my camera here. There it is. So see how shiny and viscous that is, it really kind of acts like blood. Never had really tried it before until recently. So look at that. Now I do suggest not only using this because it's a little more on the orangey side. So we've got our flail here. We're going to drop some of that in here. And it's almost like oil paint where I let it do its own thing. I may not even hit every flail equally. You see the difference that makes? Here, we'll just get some on the bottom side of things. We'll get some up in here so it's like a flail maze, if that's a thing. And again, I don't want to have everything just be covered in blood, slathered in it. I know I've seen a few scenes of this show. Someone showed them to me they wanted me to see the battle scenes. As I add a little bit of the blue liner, that changes it around, darkens it a bit. So now you see we've got some differences here in each of those flail sections. I'm going to darken that down even more in some places. And this is plenty shiny. You will not need... I'm going to get some on his arm here. What it does is it saves me having to paint extra stuff there too. Also, I'm going to see if I can't get a little bit of that in a sort of a spatter fashion, maybe on the cloak here. So just a few. See, and it's neat because they're kind of on the transparent side. Get some more. And just a few. This is one reason why I made this stuff lighter here, so that we could have some of that. You can do multiple layers of this. I would suggest you, now for yourself, you can let it dry and set longer. I kind of have to push the envelope here, so we're doing that. And here's the fun bit. Here we'll try and get on the base here a bit of the blood. Now this is the secret weapon, crushed glass. Sorry about that. This is another reason I used it, because, yeah, okay. I think you can see that now. Watch what happens. See how it's absorbing it? It's like it's staining the crystals of the snow a little bit. Throw some here. And I thought, I'd been looking forward to trying something like this for a long time. Like years to do bloodstained snow, and yeah, I've painted red on snow, but doing the red on the crystals here, now that's worth the price of admission. Here, I'll just try and get a few spatters here. Because it's absorbed, see how light that is? And I'm going to get myself a few drips and drops here. That's what we did on our original one here. Where is he? Now on this one, I actually took some anti-shine and went over the top, and so there'll be a difference between the dried blood and the other blood. But see how we did the snow there? And we've got now something similar going on in here. But like I said, we take a little bit of the blue liner in there and make it darker and a little cooler. And again, it's a few more little spatters of, but just for effect now. Try to be as smart. You could even literally spatter this if you wanted to. I don't quite have enough hands to try and do that because, well, with the camera and all the other stuff going on. So that's working out pretty nicely. Now I'm going to see if I can find some black here to use. Just going to look here in my little thing of paints and find some black. And I just want to maybe try and do the edge because I need that edge along there to see just how light or dark things are. I'll get a little bit of the black here. Around the edge. Sometimes I even have to let that seep up into the ground section. Like so. Yeah, it makes a big difference. It's so shocking, the difference when you get the edge of this thing, stuff that seemed to be so dark, all of a sudden now looks really light. These are pretty big bases, as you can see. I think this is a 50 millimeter. It's got to be at least a 50. Yeah, it's a. I don't think it's not a 60, but I think it's also, it could be 55. I could be wrong. I just don't have a base with me. Now I'm gonna use this to get some darks on the tail here. And make it even more liquid. Again, just used water there. And that tail looked so dark until I just did this glaze. Now, colors that I thought were dark, now they're that much darker. Again, just darkening up a few odds and ends here. Doing that on, and let's even just looking for, yeah, this definitely needs some darks in here. That's just not enough. Along the ridge line of this armor here. Oh yeah, that really needed that. This needs to be darker in a few places here. See that now our bright highlight there, that really stands out. And once again, I'm gonna do, I still got my darker color there. We're gonna solidify some darks here on the boots. Once again, looking to get them different from some of the rest of the, yeah, so that's actually cloth there. We're gonna make a little bit of a switch here. This goes up and over the leg. Didn't notice that before. I thought it was just leg muscle there. No time at all. That's changed. All better. In you go here. I'm just gonna like I said, try and reflect a little bit of the skin onto my armor here. And then, let's see, grab my black here. I got some of the snow ended up out here on the rim of the base, so it makes it shiny because it is a little bit on the wetter side, or it makes it look wet. That's the advantage of the crushed glass, because it can look just like melted snow. And I think I can also get myself a few, try a few glazes of it. Do the same thing on this tail that I did on the other one. See, one little boom, one pass there. And then just sort of leave it. Don't go back and forth. It's a little bit like the oils. And if you're curious about the oils and the MIG ammo brush, all that kind of stuff, I did a live session, I think now, maybe a couple of weeks ago, on the Flayed man with the oil brushers, so you can check that out. It's all right here on the channel. Now, if you don't see a video that I'm talking about, maybe on the blog or whatever, that's because it's a patron-only video. And there's, I think the info is sort of splattered all around the screen here. I don't know if you really need me to tell you. And it's just Patreon. And this is James Wappel at Patreon. And there is all kinds of different techniques. Basing, object source lighting, freehand, like we did on the shield here. All kinds of fun stuff like that. Non-metallic metals, like you see on these guys, like you saw on the Mountains Man, like you saw on the Lannister halberdiers, halberds. You can see we just kind of refine things a little more, a little more, a little more. And again, it's all up to you to take it as far as you want to. Now, for me, it's more as far as I can because, well, these are needed pretty soon. So I'm just going to set this aside while I've got this out here. I just need to do this on here. I'm going to maybe use a little bit of the blue liner too, if there's any brown liner left. I'm just looking to get something on here because when I stick him on the base, not going to be able to mess around with that. So that's all I'm looking to do is just there. It's good enough. That takes care of that, and then we'll just let him sit because he's going to go on top of, where's my little thing right here? He's going to go on top of this. And that was the Green Stuff World texture roller again. So here, I'm just going to set him on there. I'll just let him dry a bit. Actually, what the heck, I'm going to set out some stuff. I'm going to grab my red liner here. I haven't had this in a while. Wasn't quite sure what I want to do color-wise on him. I think we will go with maybe a more standard type red. Whoops, that's not red liner. That was my blood effects. And you get to see how this all begins here. And this is how the other two began life. And I'll show you those in a second. So yeah, we're just dropping this over the top of our Badger Steino res. Like so. And then we're going to take some of our makeup sponges, and then we'll wipe it away. So makeup sponge time. And then we take some away. What that does is it tints things a little bit. And that is exactly how we approached these. They were both basically sort of a grayish color. And then once we did this, we had something that we could work with. We've got our rust on here. We have our blood effects there. I'll just move him out of harm's way again. This one, we have some rust effects on him. Not gonna do the blood effects on him because, well, I think he's got plenty of things going on. Now let's find ourselves a green. So I'm gonna grab this. It's a verdigris dark green. See if I can't find a few spots that could be interesting to have a little green, like here on the helmet here, even down here on the horse's armor. It's almost like we're adding a bit of reflected light in some places. Yeah, just getting some color differential here. You don't have to get this elaborate with these different colors, but when you're looking to do metals, you're looking to get that environment that's around it. The environment has a lot of colors. I'm going to get here on if those are armor plates or not. I'm not exactly positive one way or the other. Just a little separation on the banner pole. Even get some of this onto the horse's head there. Let's even throw a few touches of it on the shield, and the face will also stand out a bit more. We did the freehand on that, I don't know, an hour-ish ago, somewhere along those lines. That's just gonna, in a few places here on the banner, on some parts of the cloak there, maybe even on the tail. Because we added the dark there, it opened up the opportunity to add a little bit of mid-tone. That's really all it is. It's just a bit of the mid-tone. And so we're just gonna wait for him to dry. And as we wait on him, so this one, that also could use with some darks. We've got our blue liner here. We got a little bit of the black. Mix those together. Let's find ourselves some more darks. We did this on the other two. And the nice thing is that this unit will be, it'll be in the books, it'll be ready for action. Gonna darken up the boots there. This is a lot of the same stuff we did early on, but sometimes I like to repeat that so that the people who have come in later can see what's going on. And just darkening down that tail. Darken down the cloak here too. Even on the shield. That needs to be, yeah, it needs to be corrected a bit there. And then after we do this, now we've got, so that the dark's restored, we can go back in there with those brighter highlights that we talked about, that we did before on the other guys. As we darken this down. Where's that green? Is it still around? Well, let's make some. We're just going to make our own green here with the, grab some of the black and the yellow. I'll throw this in here on that boot there. I forgot that he has these straps. Actually, some of the snow got on a few straps. That's interesting. And I need to get these reins to look less like metal and more like something else. Even going to let some of this greenish color work its way in there. And then can get some of our skin/leather color out there. And let's make this. See, this is probably as orange as we've made any of these. And this is what, the third one that we've worked on now. And we'll do that. Let's grab ourselves some of the red liner just to have it out here. And I'm going to hit the pants there. Going to, so I've got to do some bit of reflected light there. I think, yeah, I'm good. I've still got some of my blue left over here. That's what we're trying to do. Just so dark to light. And we try to find variation in that. It can't just be one monolithic here. Let's see how the brush holding it on the side like this. So we just scumble in some of those lighter colors. Where's some of my yellow into that. This has the most, yeah, it's the most open one, I think. All the other ones have, yeah, he's got the shield on his back. So this one's the most open. You can see more of this type of stuff than you can on the other ones. I was wondering, boy, why all of a sudden am I seeing more of the cloak and the other stuff? That's why. And we just gonna get some of the yellows in on this strap here. Change that away from what's behind it a bit. Again on the boot here. And I'm going to, we could use a bit of that out there. Get some of that into our, yeah, lightens it up a touch. And we can do plenty of blood effects here, obviously. So that might be interesting to see how much of that we can get onto him. But yet in the crevices and such, still trying to manage to get some green down in there. Let's get some strappings on that. So we've done a lot of stuff here. We've done the blood effects. We did some freehand already. Talked about basing. Talked about units. And I do suggest if you missed the early stages of this, go back and check out the beginning. Because I think there's a lot of interesting information. I talk about the supplies a bit too when I first fire up one of these sessions. It's the same thing when I do one of my regular recorded videos. Obviously there is no chat on those, so I don't have my company with me like I usually do, but I just have a little more private conversation with you, getting inside your head, telling you all kinds of painting stuff. You can see we're gonna step that up even a bit more here. Where are we at? There we are. And we again have to make sure, because if I do too many of the little highlights and stuff there, those little indications of highlights, well, if we're doing that on the metals too, well, both things can't be metal. And if we're doing the same type of stroke, the same type of effect in two areas, well, they'll both look like each other. And yeah, geez, I'm seeing all this stuff with the saddle going, man, why am I seeing so much of the saddle? I don't remember that. On the other ones, well, the other ones are much more hunched over. They've got the shield in the way. So no wonder. So again, trying to make the boot stand out a bit there. Now, as I mentioned with Bethany earlier, the whole the terrain thing and not quite having the space for it underneath the camera, I've been trying to basically create another setup. So is this one, it's fantastic for miniatures. The area is not big enough to do the large stuff, but I can't just be moving this. This machine does not move around. It's a tower unit. It's not a laptop, so that's the thing I've got to get to be able to do larger creatures, terrain stuff, dioramas, even the large scale figures, because I've got, well, there's the creature caster figures, but I also got the Big Child creative stuff. And that's a large scale. A whole big box of that came in. That's a new thing. It's also going to be added to the Patreon page, the Big Child creative videos. And I'm going to, we're going to do a dark glaze on this shield, bang, like that. I can even use the brush to take some away. So just hit it with water, wipe some of the water away. I can use my finger. It's all good. Let's get some more dark in here. It's a constant thing of adjustments. You go, okay, yeah, let's make this a little lighter. Well, you know what? This really needs to be a little darker. Always keeping in mind, though, the enemy of good is better, and you overwork something, now you've really overworked it. I know people have also asked me about wet palettes. And what you just saw, that color I just grabbed, I put that out there, I'm guessing hours ago. Not quite sure when the heck I started this thing. I'm not going to go to my YouTube channel thing to see exactly when I started this. But my guess is somewhere around 11:30ish or so. And it's still wet, still usable. There, we need to, yeah, this metal needs to be, we need to inject some more interest into our metals here. I keep forgetting that this is one of those other ones we worked on, and it's not. This is kind of the last one here. So we're trying to find ourselves some reflected light in here. Same thing in there. We're going to do our armor section here on his chest plate. Yeah, I can even, here, this is getting, it's not really toned out, it's just getting evened out. It was rough there, so now we make it less rough. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Now I thought I had the water effect, or my stuff here to make icicles off of those. That's unfortunately downstairs. But I've got other videos that actually do show you how to do that, so it's not a total loss. Yeah, that blue liner, that's stuff I put out there hours ago. Now I'm going to go back to my lighter blue up here. And just see if I can't find a few. Yeah. And then I can go back in and hit it with my rust. Like you do. Just trying to, once again, find some interesting little areas on my armor. We will do what we did on the other two. Let's bring up our lighter colors here. Mixing in that with our that same blue. Just like the other ones, we only do a few of these little touches. We don't go crazy and everywhere. And even these lights, we're not going to do, it's not an edge highlight. It's not what that's about. See how that's got some skips in it there? That's intentional. Because what that's going to do is show maybe there is a little battle damage there, that it's gotten hit by something. I'll spin this around. We'll do that same little highlight on the other side. We need to do the same thing in here. And boy, it makes such a difference. And this is why I try to save this kind of thing as close to the end as possible. Because it is such a dramatic change. And it'll do even here. See the difference that'll make right there. Let's get some here. So yeah, the whole blackened steel thing, it can still have some decent highlights on it, but they have to be I guess the size of those highlights has to be smaller. Just a bit smaller. So here we are. And once again, I'm going to do a linear thing here as much as I can. I've got some bits of the mail that also have to be picked up. These rivets there. We're gonna the spikes that are sticking out here. We're gonna get some of these. Working on the top edges of them. We're doing right in here again a somewhat uneven, broken line. And this really does get transformed. It had shading on it, but these harsher highlights and lines, that's what's going to give it that metal finish that we're looking for. And you see it's only a few scattered rings, and when you vary those, it looks a bit like the rings aren't laying perfectly flat, because a mail shirt doesn't necessarily rest perfectly flat. At least not if the object is moving at the high rate of speed that this guy is. Makes it look a little less sedentary, I guess. And I think I know I mentioned this early on with these brushes. When they are new, you can really do some pretty decent detail stuff with them. Alright, now that we've got a lot of our lights and different effects, let's go back to back to the blood stuff, because it's still around. It takes a while sometimes for and we'll bring it out again so that people can see what actually is. So this is from Badger. Same folks that do the Steiner Wrist primer. And it is Ghost Tint Fresh Blood. I actually like to mix the ghost tints in with my primer sometimes. I get a really interesting, well, colored primer. So let's see what we're doing. Same thing that we did all the other stuff. Just working our way up. So I'm going to have some cast off here on the hand. So I only did some very basic shading in this area, because I knew this part was coming. Now I think on the other one I had tried to add my heavy gloss gel to the blood effects to make it kind of spatter off of this thing. And now I have some new stuff, so maybe that'll work. Of course, I don't have it here with me. But yeah, I just ended up painting over it because it didn't do what I wanted it to do. So here, let's do some of that same blood cast off here. Now, the original guy also did some mud effects. Maybe I'll do that on these guys too. Oops, sorry about that. I got a little close to the camera there. And I want to have at least some of that on here. Yeah, let's, for the heck of it, it might not actually, maybe it doesn't really reach that far, but the heck with it, I'm going with that. And now we'll have this doing the same thing where we stain the snow with their blood effects here. So normally when I was doing my blood effects in the past, I would take something like clear red, red liner, maybe some blue liner, whatever, and I would mix that up with the secret weapon water effects, and that would give it a little bit of a suspension, a little bit of depth. Obviously it would give it gloss too, but then we kind of discovered this and said, wait a second here. Wouldn't it be nice if I could have all of that in one product instead of having to mix a few things together? So I'm going to take a little touch of the black. This will make it that much darker. So it looks a little bit like it's, again, dried blood. We'll have some of the cast off here again. It's because it's so open, I thought, why not? That could be fun to see. Let's try and make some smaller dots of that. That helps us out here. Let's hit some of the cloak here. Maybe some of that's, again, spraying onto the cloak. And what I may do then is we'll go back to our secret weapon. And this is the red rust. That is the red rust. We'll throw that out here. We'll do some of those glazes like we did on here. You see that gave us a tiny bit of a rust effect. Works in a very watercolor type style. It's practically like a rust wash. And I'm going to let that find its way into the crevices. Areas where water just, I don't know, somehow might settle in there. And this is important right here, is I'm just going to leave it on that one side. I'm not going to do it absolutely everywhere here. I'm going to do it maybe over that and down here. And then here on the arm, let's do it here. On the plates there. Where's that at? It's over here. Back over there, it's actually going to make it look a little bit like it's reflecting the skins there. There, that's a couple of more of these. Especially I want to go around these little studs and rivets. Well, maybe not so little. Up here onto the horse's head. We'll go with a, yeah, we need one of these right in there. See that? think I need to get some of these on the shield, yeah. And under there. So I want to make him look like he's like the Tin Man that's been sitting in the forest forever. It's just a few spots here and there, enough to indicate that it's there. And see, I can even use this now. I can use it to shade some of that stuff a little darker. Look at this. I think some of the original, some of that purple is still viable, and I'm gonna try and get some of that here. Just for fun. Because we did it on the other ones. Especially the one with the banner. Man, it's not something that they'll notice straight away. That's just a little subtle shift of the color there. Not so, yeah, not gonna hit the boot, but do I have, yeah, I still got some lighter colors left. And we will right there and here. One more here. Yeah, don't want to get that in the snow. Here, let's see if we can get that pink out of the snow there. And just wash this away. And the snow, that's the crushed glass, the secret weapon there. I'm going to get some of the pink over in here on this part of the pants. Maybe even a touch or two in a few places on the armor. One of those things that, again, is barely even noticeable. Let's see that touch of pink. Now we have the almost more of a yellowish green up on top there. Actually, what I can do is take the brightness down a touch, and that should help things show up too. So I will jump off here so that I can actually record another video for you guys. I want to thank everybody that was here with me, Bethany and first and last, and Gabe and everybody else. Appreciate you hanging out. And if I don't see you live before Adepticon, hopefully I will see you live afterwards. If you could do the like and share thing, YouTube really likes it when you do that. It certainly helps me out. And hopefully doing these kind of videos also helps you out. So we have our rider here. We've got our Circe and High Sparrow. So thanks again for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.